that's here today has been with us for the whole duration. Thank you very much for hanging in there with us. Today is going to be a very loosey-goosey type day for the hour that you're going to be with us. Just have fun with it. Don't get upset if things don't work the way you think it should work. Again, we tell you, go home, practice, and when nobody's watching, you don't have to worry about anybody watching you, not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You'll be more relaxed and more at ease. And some of the dowsing instruments that we're going to be playing with today are not necessarily that easy to learn how to use. It takes practice just to learn how to use the instrument. That's why people have a preference. We'll show you the difference in some of the tools, but one of them, the Y rod, I don't even touch. I can't use it. It's just something, it doesn't work with me. I'm an L rod pendulum person, and that's fine. You may pick up the Y rod in the versions that we have here, and you might find you might like it. The Y rods that we have are imitations to a tree branch, is basically what it is. You know, like I say, a traditional dowser was going to take a branch off a tree and shape it the way they want it, and then they'll go out and use it. Many people don't want to do that, but the Y rods imitate that process, and a lot of people use it.
This one you're talking
There you go. That's the Y rod. So we have a variety of things to play with. We don't know what we're going to find. We didn't test run this to see what's here, so we're not sure what we're going to find, but we're going to just demonstrate how you go about doing it, kinds of things you can look for. You're going to be L rods, Y rods, bobbers, and whatever we have in our little batch of goodies. So just have a lot of fun with it, and just try to relax and just know that, okay, you can't do it here, but when you go home, you came really prepared today, didn't you? My goodness, wow, that's great.
The second half, though, it's not just looking for water and things in the ground. What we can do is we'll do auras, and that's we have smaller, L rods to do that with,
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't like to have it come at them with the L rods.
Pine Bush Lions Club does a program called Lions Kids Sight USA. We come in with a beautiful Plus Optics unit, and we screen eyes, pre-K through 5th grade. And what we're doing is we're looking to detect visual problems at an early stage. The Lions Club also will take care of you if the kids come in, the families can't afford to go to the eye doctor or to get an exam. The Lions Club will send them down to America's Best in Middletown, and they'll get an exam and 2 pairs of glasses if they need it, or whatever else they might need. So it's free at this moment. Free. It's just a wonderful program. We do it in the schools every fall, but we had such a low turnaround on the permission slips that we were all a little bummed. The school nurses worked very hard to get the parents to understand about this program, and we still didn't get a very good return on our permission slips. So what we're going to do is, over the summer, we're going to be looking at the homeschooled kids that are schooled outside of this school district here, or for anybody in the area who doesn't have the opportunity for this. They are going to be able to come into the library. We're going to pick a few days, and we're going to run these kids in and out. It takes a quick little click of the machine, and they're in and out.
Yeah, it's a pass or refer.
It's just
and
a pass or
it's
refer.
Actually a camera. It looks at the eyes, and it has the computer thing in here that it lists a whole bunch of things. But we're not we're not eye doctors. It's a screening. So
We're just a facilitator. We push
Yes.
the button on the machine does the work. Looks for lazy eye, amblyopia, lazy eye, nearsighted, farsightedness, eyes that don't focus the same. We've also been able to detect cancer. So it's a very important program. We need to get the word out to everybody. It's here. They can contact the Lions Club if they want more information. They can jump online, look up Lions C program or Kids Sight USA. They can get the information. It's a marvelous program, and for the people in need, it doesn't cost them anything.
Do they have to be in this county, or?
When we do here at the library, I don't care where you're from.
Just
As long as you sign the permission slip, that kid can go up in there. We have the luck in the Pine Bush Lions Club to have a resident Santa. Santa Steve is one of our screeners, and it's a lot of fun going into the schools with the kids, and the Santa shows up and he screened my eyes. Oh wow, fantastic! And Bill is always Santa's helper, so we have a double whammy and whatnot. But it's just such an important program, so we're going to try and get more people, make it accessible to more people, irregardless of where the kids go to school. Now, they may be signed up in school, and maybe they missed it in the fall. All right, so, well, if you missed it, all right, here, come here and do it here. It's the same thing.
But it doesn't hurt, or it's not like it's anything.
We're
So
3 feet from the
anybody
kid.
can come in. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter.
We can even do adults.
How are
you
they
know.
notified if there is a problem? Do they get a printout that day? Or?
The permission slip will have, if it's a pass, then no paperwork is
Right.
exchanged. If it's a referral, the piece of paper is we put a sticker on the permission slip, and that sticker has the information that the optometrist or the optometrist or whoever does their eyes has the information on what the machine detected, and then
Okay.
and that piece of paper is handed to the parent or guardian or whatnot, and that's the paper that they take with them when they go down for the eye checkup. And that's it. And that's all there is to it. It's privacy. You know, we do nothing with the papers afterwards, so we don't care what
And
the only
it's
thing that we
fast.
might do is we might take a copy of the people who didn't pass that need to be referred, because I'm supposed to follow up to make sure that they got there. You know, sometimes they need a nudge.
Right.
But maybe we have to remind them. It doesn't cost you anything. So I'm supposed to follow up. In the schools, the nurses do all the follow-ups for us. And here it'll be my responsibility to follow up on those, and it only takes you a couple minutes to do that. So that's not a problem. So just be good ambassadors for the Lions Club, if you don't mind. If you're talking to people with kids, or whatever, and especially the home-schooled kids, we're going to zero in on them. We know many kids that are schooled outside of our district for whatever reasons, and you know, we just want to make sure we catch any child who wants to come in and get screened. We'll screen them. Doesn't matter to us. Machine doesn't care either. All right, is that enough of a boost? All right, we ready to go outside and play? All right, let's head on out. Isn't that an interesting looking little thing? I'll leave him out. Well, you see the menagerie of stuff we have. And it all comes from, people have different ideas about, oh, there's my other one, of what to use. And I have to say, even, here, where's that even? This is really, this was our original version of the Y rod. Put this down. This was the original version of the Y rod. And as you can see, it's just a plastic wrapped piece of wire. I think, what did they say, use piano string wire
Yes.
in this? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Remember, this isn't what's doing the dowsing, okay? This is just an indicator. This is just going to help you douse. But the Y rod is basically used, and like I said, this is not one of my favorite tools. Here, just hang on to that. It's not one of my favorite tools to use, but basically what you're doing is, and it takes a little bit to get used to using it, but what you're doing is you're holding it so that there's pressure on it, and you have to learn the right amount of pressure on it. And usually your indication will be, it'll be down. It depends on what your indication is, remember? What do you have to do? The first thing you have to do is find out what your yes is. Okay, well, we hope that it traditionally will go down for you like this. Because if you're like our one dowser and it goes like this, he had a bruise on his sternum because he was our large water finder dowser, and he liked to work with the Y rod, but his yes was this. So he'd be out in the field working, and this is what it was doing. So we hope that you have it down, but you never know. So, but this takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's the modern day version of the tree branch. Okay, so you can play around with these. Now these kinds of things come in different materials. And this is just simply plastic that they put a connector on the top of it. And so the people who come up with these ideas is fantastic. It's really, we had a dowser though, he always wore his shirts with the pocket on the shirt, and he'd be sitting there and all of a sudden he'd dig into his pocket and he'd pull out, you know, the coffee stirrers, the plastic coffee stirrers as you get in the diner? He had 2 of those, and he just attached them at the end like that, and it basically was something like this. And all he had to do was pull it out of his pocket, put it back in his pocket. He had his dowsing tool with him wherever he went. just have to be imaginative, whatever comes to, your mind. But this is just another version of the Y rod. And again, you just have to learn how to use it, and then get the response that's going to be your positive response. And again, if you hope it's down and not up. But if it's up, you just have to work around it. You'll learn to pick your questions very smartly in the beginning. Okay, so that's those are versions of the Y rods, and we have other sizes of those plastic jobbies, and we've got just a plain piece of wire. So I'm just giving you an idea about your imagination of what you want to work with. And if times are really tough and you're really short of materials, we were taught, got a pair of wire hangers hanging in it.
Wow.
Does the same thing. So it doesn't cost you much. Okay? You can use just about anything that's out there. You're only limited by your imagination when it comes to this. And I see that Bill is out looking to see what we're going to be checking on. So, I'll leave all this stuff around. I want you guys to play with all this stuff because you don't know what you might like. Now, the other type of instrument that we use now, I demonstrated my bobber. So here are a couple of other designs. So my bobber was designed for me. Don't attack me like that. And my bobber was designed specially for me, for my energy work. So you're not going to find this guy around. In fact, the person who made this, he's no longer with us, unless somebody else comes up with his design. But this is a specialty item. But you'll be able to play with it. But another version of the bobber is just something like this. Your bobber is a basic. Her bobber, if you'll notice, is the same thing. It's just with the spring effect. Hers has a little bit of a weight on the end, which is a little better. This one doesn't have it, but it still works. It still works good. This is another design that somebody came up with. This is what's so fun about dowsing. You get really quirky with it. It just works the same. And this is another version of a bobber that somebody put together. They just put a fancy little bead on the end of it, and it does the same thing. It works. It works. Now, what do you use your bobber for? Anything in specific?
No. I prefer my L rod. My L rods.
Yeah.
I prefer them, or the single L rod if I'm measuring people's
That's your
orders.
mode, is the L rod.
That one I can do anything with. Yeah. Just figured I'd try this one
There's
out.
another
today.
version.
How do you use the bobber?
I'll show you. I'll show you. You want to work with the bobber first?
Yes.
I got several varieties of bobbers here. I hope we have enough to go around. You already have yours.
I do.
You guys want to take your pick? Don't fight over them. Share. I think, do I have any more bobbers in there? I think there's one more bobber. I think it's the wooden handled bobber.
No, I already took that out.
Oh, you already took that out? Okay. Give her that. There. So everybody has a bobber? I have
Which
one
way
more
is
left
it?
in my hand. Anybody want to take preference?
This way?
Okay. All right. So, now what's the first thing that we taught you about learning how to dowse? You have your instrument in your hand. What's the first thing you need to know about this guy?
Yes
Your
or no?
yes and your no.
Okay, so find out what your yes is. I don't need to know what it is, by the way, so I don't need to watch it. But just get your yes response. Yes is fine for now.
Yes is like that.
And what you know?
There's my
So
no.
it spreads
It takes a little practice to get used to.
Yes, this one's got a mind of its own.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes you have to
Yes.
step back. Sometimes
But a no.
when you're
Because I think
you
they're
can do
shaped
that.
an L.
Looks like an
When you're
L.
when you're
these are
working with
mine,
something with
so
the
they
L
know
rods,
me.
which is metal,
I know
and you're
you.
working a lot, and you're really asking questions, and you're getting answers, you'll find sometimes that your L rods will start to stick together. And the reason for that is you built up the energy in them. Okay, and that you get plus minus, you get like a magnetism in them. So what you have to do is you've got to clean them off.
And they're not steel, so some of them are steel, but these are bronze. So they should not be magnetic. If you use them a lot, they will get stuck together.
And it's just the
Kinda
sticky,
funny.
the energy gets stuck when it collects. You'll experience a number of different things with them. If they start being funky on you, just clean them, bless them, maybe put them down someplace. People have different rituals that they use to clear their L rods. You know, separate them, you know, just do anything just symbolically. Crystals on them. Some people will use crystals. They'll put them in sea salt and water.
Yeah.
In the moonlight, leave them in the moonlight or sunlight, whichever works for you. Okay, everybody's different, right?
I don't know if I'm off balance. Because I switched hands, because I thought, I was like, maybe it's this one. I switched hands and now this one has got a mind of its own.
It just
Is
could
me?
be. It just could be the L rod today is just. And I say we have a little
I
bit of
put
a
them in
breeze.
different hands. I was like, oh, maybe that one, because that one was a little.
Well,
thin.
you want to know something?
Maybe the breeze.
We know it could be the breeze. It could be the breeze. It could be since maybe you're picking up energy on just one of them. Some people only work with one L rod. You don't necessarily have to work with two. You can work with one. You just have to learn how to do it. All right. So now, if they're acting up too much on you, you might want to switch to a different pair.
Yeah, I'm gonna try some.
Let me see. Where do I put the other pair?
Looking around.
No, over there is fine.
What you looking for, Sue?
That pair is acting up on her. We're just going to change it. These are probably the same type, but.
This or this? These are my name. I don't care.
Wow.
All right, now
This is
that's
violated. I don't know, maybe it's me. They're all going crazy.
it could be. You
gotta
may,
relax.
What's happening?
you may just need to relax. And the thing too with the L rods, you have to learn at what angle. You can't be holding them up too high. Okay, they're going to go back this way on you. Right. So you don't want to hold them too far down that way because then it's gravity is going to be hooking onto them. So it does take practice to figure out what the right level is to work with the L rods. That's what I'm saying. Don't get frustrated with them if they're not working right for you. You also have to understand that once you start working with the same set of L rods, you connect with them a lot better after a course of time. So in other words, after a while, as soon as you pick up those L rods, they're at your attention. Okay, it's basically what we're saying. And it's also, it's good not to use somebody else's instruments. I mean, you can, but I prefer people don't use my instruments because it may louse up my energy. Instruments. But I don't mind you playing with them, but I may have to go home and do a little work with them. So, all right, so now let's say you've got sort of a hang of what you're doing with your L rods. Okay. These are mine. As you can see, they're a different type of handle, same brazing rod material. So it doesn't matter what you use on them. Now, one of the tricks to get your L rod stable is, you see where my thumbs are? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to stabilize your L rods. And then as soon as you know you're going to get ready to ask your question, then you can release them and then you can ask the question, and I'm downhill, and that's why that one's going that way, because I'm leaning that way. So a number of factors could be affecting them. So it's learning how to and practice with them. Okay. So basically, what we're going to be looking for out here, and I don't know if there are any out here, is a water vein or a source of water. So what's a source of water?
Underground stream.
A water pipe? A water pipe?
Yeah.
Pipe. Okay.
Yeah.
Could be a water vein. It could be a water pipe. And like I said, we haven't walked the area, so we don't know what's out here. So we may or we may not find something, but you don't know. But the first thing we might be looking for is a water vein. Okay, a vein of water. Now, when you're asking the question about looking for the water vein, I'll give you a couple of hints. Be very explicit. Tell your rods that you want it to give you an indication when your feet are over the water vein, or that your rods are over the water vein. you have to tell it what you want. If you want your feet to be the source of the answer, you have to tell it, my feet. When my feet are over the water vein, give me my indication. If you want it to be your L rods, when your L rods are over it, you're going to tell your L rods that that's what you want. Okay? So when you're asking your question, you said, please indicate when my feet are over the water vein, or give me an indication when my L rods are over the water vein. All right? So the first thing you would do, in the beginning, we're taking a long way around here, guys. We've already talked about, you know the shortcuts. You should be able to walk out to the field and just ask a simple question and get the answer you need before you go walking miles looking for something. But we're going to show you the long way to get to the end result. All right. So basically, you have a piece of property, and you're looking for a source of potable water. All right. So what you're doing is you're walking. You don't know what's around here. Whatever the case might be. And okay. All right. Now I'm getting an indication of something. So you have to go through a series of questions. Is this a water stream, a stream of water, a vein of water? Well, it's saying yeah. Okay. There's not really much I can ask of this because I don't have a need to drill for it. I don't really need to look for it any more than the fact that I have found a source of water, which is it's telling me it's a water vein.
Which direction is it flowing in?
And it's another thing that you might want to know is the direction in which the water is flowing. So you could ask it. It might be able to tell you. In this case, we're getting some kind of indication that the water is going in that direction somehow. And if it's a vein of water, it can be something that's coming and going under the building. You don't know because we're not drilling this. We're not doing anything else with it except just trying to locate it and see if it's here. Anybody else want to try? Just walk and see if they can find. I got an indication there. Anybody want to try and see if they get an indication? Start over there. And just keep walking towards this spot. If this is a vein of water, there's got to be more than this spot. It's going to be all in this area. So come walk forward and see if you can get an indication. I'm standing over it. Okay, well that's all right. So now remember, if it's a vein of water, unless it's in a pipe, isn't going to go straight necessarily. If you watch deer walk in the woods, if you notice their paths are never straight.
Yeah. We could form a line and find out.
The deer are literally following a vein of water when you see them walking in the woods. And you'll notice they go this way, they go this way, they go up, they go down, because they're following the energy of the water. So you can't necessarily determine what's under here by if it's straight in a line.
Right.
Although hopefully that would indicate a pipe
Yes,
or
right.
hose of something
Yes,
that
right,
keeps
right.
it. Otherwise, your water vein could
Yeah.
go in different directions, and that's why it's important that if you needed to know, that's when you have to ask your questions. Well, we know it's going in this direction. Okay, so then the next thing you do is you follow it and let your L rods give you the direction that it's going in. I'm just going to demonstrate I'm not functioning. So it may take you, all over the place. But after a while, when you learn to trust that indication, you'll follow it. And you'll get the information that you need to know. All right. So now we found a source of water. Let's say it's a vein of water. We're going to drill a well. Okay? What do we need to know about this vein of water?
How deep is
And that's not the first question I would ask.
it? Is it potable?
Potable.
Very good. Why bother asking any other questions if it's no good for what you're looking for? Okay. So the first thing you want to do is you would ask it if it's potable. We'll say yes, it's potable.
Yes.
Okay. So we say, okay, I think maybe we can use this. All right. So what's the next question you want to ask? When you're looking for a source of water for a well, you need so many gallons per minute. So you need to know whether there's a lot of water here or not so much. Now, a lot of times a well may have 2 or 3 veins of water going into it because one wasn't sufficient. So they may have had to locate 2 ideally when a well driller hits a series where he goes down and he hits like 3 veins that are all right underneath each other, that's payday. That's gold, you know. So, all right. So now you want to know. Let's see. Well costs me how much per feet to go down. So what do you want to know now? How far down it is?
Yeah.
All right. So how would you ask that question? You can't say how far down is that because the rods can't tell you it's 30 feet, 50 feet. 100 feet. So how would you ask it?
Is it more than 10 feet? Is it more than 20 feet?
Bingo. And you would get it, and they would say, yeah, it's more than 20. Yeah, it's more than 30. Yeah, it's more than 40. It's more than 50. Is it more than 60? Oh, it's not. Okay. What was I up to? 60? Oh, 59, 58, 57.
57.
And then you get down to what it is. When you're doing something for a well driller, the well driller should, if they're a good well driller, should know at what point is the top of the vein of the water and what's the bottom of the vein of water. Why do you think that's a good idea?
No quantity. You get an idea how big.
Tells you how much speed and force you'll get.
Good questions. The main reason he would like to know that is so that he doesn't drill too far and dump your well. Because if he goes to the bottom of that vein, where's that water going to end up going? He's lost it. So that's another thing that the well driller needs to know is the top line of the vein and the bottom line. Okay? And then you can also ask, you could ask it how many gallons per minute. I think they do ask that question, don't they?
They do.
It's something that they need to know. Well, if this vein is sufficient, then he knows he only has to drill for that one vein. If it's not sufficient, he may have to drill a different way. Hopefully, maybe he can find a crossing of a couple of veins. Anything that he can use to build up the amount of water. Most of the time, it's several veins coming in.
And the other question is this a year-round supply of water,
Oh,
or is
yeah.
it seasonal?
That's another good question you need to
Because
know. Is it
if you're in
year-round
a
or
drought,
seasonal?
the wells go down.
So you learn to ask your questions to get the answers to what you need to know to do the function that you need done.
And the well driller will drill the well wherever you point to.
Yes.
So if you're a homeowner and you say you don't want to have a whole bunch of pipes and stuff, I want my well here. They'll drill. Doesn't mean they're going to get water, because it's not like drilling into a big glass and using a straw.
Unless you hit a water dome, and we frown upon anybody drilling into a water dome. And the reason for that is because water dome is water that's pressurized under the earth that comes up. From that water dome, you'll have several outgoing veins of water. That's what you're looking for to tap into, not the dome, because if you break the dome, you could lose all the fingers off of that dome. And a lot of times with Native Americans is when they built a medicine wheel on the property, wherever they were set up their teepees, they might do a medicine wheel on the ground. A lot of times there would not be a water dome there before, but by the time they got finished and they did their whatever they do with the medicine wheel, a dome will develop. And they've proved that out. So a good dowser, when you're going out in the field and you're dowsing for water, a good dowser, a responsible well driller will not touch a dome. You can use it to your advantage, because if you find a dome, then all you really have to do is walk the dome and pick up the best veins that are there. And if you can use them, that's great. And there could be a couple of domes on one piece of property. So if you can get a couple of those veins that are coming through.
And normally you would only drill a well at a crossing of the veins, because you want to make sure that your water is going to be sufficient. Because if it's only one vein, any kind of car, or we'll say a truck, if your neighbors come in and they build a house and they bring in a truck and they drive across your field or across their driveway, they could actually fracture your vein. And that the first thing I ask people if they're having trouble with the water is, do you have any construction in the area?
Yeah. So I mean, anything can. We had a problem up in Walker Valley on Red Barn Road, particularly. As people were building their houses, a neighbor who had water all of a sudden didn't have water. And what was happening is there was too much demand on the water veins that they were using. It couldn't handle the increase in usage. So you could have a perfectly good water supply and somebody drills something down the way, but it's on your vein of water, and you could lose your source of water very quickly. Or a heavy construction vehicle might go over and crush the ground. It doesn't have to be close to the ground. What the heck was that?
You hit the curb.
Oh. But it could be something, you know, a certain amount of depth. It can still crush it. You have an earthquake. A lot of times if you have an earthquake in an area, people will lose their wells because the earth opens up and creates a new path for the water. And it's the same things with a well that's gone dry. We have people who can regenerate the well by redirecting a vein. They locate the vein someplace else. They do their little magic, whichever that is. Come back a while later and you'll hear water going back into the well. And we have some dowsers who are very good at doing that. And they have a little ritual. Some of them have a little ritual because the person who's paying you to come in and do this wants to know what you're doing. So a lot of them would find the vein that they wanted to divert. They'd have a package of rebar. That's the metal thing. They'd have a packet of rebar. They'd go over and they would bang it into the ground, and then they would stand there and they would go boom, boom, boom. Walk away from it, come back a few hours later, got water going into the well. They took that vein and they diverted it to the direction that they needed it to go.
But they have to have the confidence and the
Expertise
ability to move
to
it.
do it. But
Oh,
it can be
we've
done.
seen it happen. So,
It can
and you
be
can
done.
also take, if your well gets
So
sulfur or anything that you don't want, you can actually move the sulfur out, but you have to be careful on moving things out because you also cut down on your water supply. But if you have multiple veins coming to your well, you can actually, and if you know, you can take the sulfur vein and move the sulfur vein out. It's very dangerous to do because you may mess up your well.
So it's always good to have somebody who's been doing it for a little while. And we can only attest to the fact that we've seen this system in action. Like I say, we had one dowser, it was his specialty. And everybody knew if their well went dry, they knew to call him. And that was his method. He'd go out and find out where it needed to be diverted, put the metal in, bang the metal in, hit the whatever amount of times, walk away. It might not be until the next day, but 99% of the time, he would get you water back in your well. And I don't know how he does it.
The other way to get
I just
water
know
back
it
in the
does.
well, you can call the well driller, and they'll come in and they're called hydrofracking.
Yeah.
He'll put his drill down and pump a lot of water in here, or sometimes it's a chemical, and actually spread apart the rocks so that the water will run again.
So, because what
Or
you're
put dry ice in it.
yeah, you're looking for the water that's yet to see the light of day, and the earth is consistently producing water underground. It steams it and then it collects and then it drips down. It makes the pools of water underneath the ground. That's the water you're looking for. You don't really necessarily want groundwater. Groundwater's got a lot of crap in it, but sometimes maybe that's all you've got to work with. But it's not the best. In fact, our well had to be raised up because we're on the side of the mountain up in Walker Valley, and the well opening was below the level of the blacktop. So when it rained and the water was coming down off the mountain, which it does, and the water just comes gushing down the mountain. It was getting into the well, so our water was being tainted. So he just came up and put an extension on it. So now we have a well house in the middle of our driveway. But at least that way now the groundwater and the water that comes off the mountain isn't getting into the well. So we're still working now with pure water that's down inside the mountain.
Goshen has a rule on the well has to be, I think, 600 feet.
I think it's like 600 feet they want you
No
to
matter
go down. No matter
how deep the water is, you have to go 600 feet.
600 feet.
But remember, 600 feet, they put that pipe down there, that pipe fills up. So that if you have enough water, the pipe will fill up. Even if it's the water goes down, you know, your level will go down. But
I think they have a very high aquifer down there in Goshen where they're talking about. So they know the water is there, but they want you to make sure you go down far enough so that you're getting the better quality. That's what I feel anyway, but we'll wait and see. All right, does anybody want to play anymore with the L-rods? We're coming up to our hour is almost over. But we can hang out for a little bit. We're not in a big rush. Did anybody want to try to play with a Y rod, or
I want to know how you hold it.
hold what?
The Y rod.
It's a technique that you have to learn. Let me see. Let me see if I can. Now this one is. I got a big kick out of the materials that people use when they're making these things. I mean, I think this is a wire tie thing, isn't it? I think.
Put your fingers here.
But
and you just
again,
put it on the
it's putting the right amount of tension on the instrument so that when you get your
When you
response,
get
you're
your
gonna
yes answer,
it'll respond
You gotta
to
be
it.
careful.
But
because
this is
that's-
very hard to work with.
Yeah, that's
And I
my
won't
yes
deny
answer
that.
is-
It is
You can
hard to
do
work
that
with.
with
But some people
right?
die and live by these
It's a
things.
fork stick.
Just try to hold it to see if I'm holding it the right way. You want
No,
it like this and
you
like
want to
this?
you want to
Yeah,
get
you
it
want-
so that
Oh yeah, that's
pressure.
what you said, potential.
And sometimes
Just
maybe
hold it like this
it
and
depends on what fingers you
your fingers,
use. So you want to get some tension in that,
Turn your
so that
elbows in.
when you get a response,
And then
it'll move in your
kind
fingers,
of do that.
and it'll give you the response. And like I said, we hope that your positive is down.
Oh,
Well, belly's a little
Elbows are
softer
tighter.
than the sternum is, but these take a lot of you. I think maybe you saw this guys in one of the other classes. This is just another version of a L-rod pointer. We had a lady who used this all the time, and she'd be wandering around and she'd be following the water veins all over the place, and this is what she used. And it's just as good as anything else. If you want to try that, you can try that. Now you don't want to hold it that way. No, because you don't have the you need tension on it in order to get it to respond. So you want to hold it something like this, so that when you get a response, it'll come
Oh, I
off your
see.
fingers.
I was going like this. It's like
This is creating the tension. You just want it to go in the direction that's going to tell you that's your indication.
yeah.
So
Just practice.
you want it. It just takes practice. Your fingers will get sore until they get a little callus on them. If you're going to use this all the time, you have to. You just have
hold
to.
it like this. Put your fingers on it, and then put your elbows in, and then put tension on it. And just watch it doesn't fly up in your face.
Oh yeah, here it comes.
Yeah, and that's
Thumb goes on
that's
the
what happens.
inside.
And let's see, if we're looking, we'll say if we're looking for water, we do one of these, and then it comes up.
Bumps and whatnot, that's around. So you're coming up and you're walking and you don't. What's the kind of question you might want to ask a plant?
Is it poisonous?
Very good, very good. All right, so let's go up to a plant. Pick a plant, pick a tree. And you go up to the plant, just like you do anything else, and you ask the question, are you harmful to me, or are you poisonous? Whatever question that you want to ask of that plant, and have it tell you yeah or no. Then hostas are not a problem for me, so I'm okay, I'm fine.
So what will it do if it was harmful?
It would give me a yes. It would tell me yes. And if that's all I need to know about that plant, then I know to stay away from that plant. If I go up to poison ivy,
Yeah, right.
my bobber will go absolutely
Crazy?
crazy because I'm highly allergic to poison ivy. But you don't know. A lot of times when you're out in the woods or even walking in a park or something like that, they may have stuff around. It may be okay for somebody else, but to you, it could be very harmful. And one of the quickest ways to do is to go up and ask. I mean,
What about
Believe me.
if you saw an insect on a bush? You could ask it too if that's
Sure.
gonna bite me or is it harmful?
Sure. Yes.
Any
You
poison,
can go up to snakes.
any poison ivy around, so we could check that out.
Maybe along where the car, in front of the car, where the cars are parked in the front.
back?
Go in the back.
There might be something back there. If you want to go test it out, go test it out.
All right, you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, go out. Yeah. Because like I say, a plant. One of the other things that teach you in herb class, if you ever go through an herb class, one of the basic things that they teach you in herb class is if the plant has red on it, it most likely might be not good for you. So especially if you've got even things like rhubarb, which is a red plant, but there's some of your weeds and stuff that grow, if they have red on them, red veins or red stalks or something red on them, you should check it out because it could be poisonous. That was one of the first things we learned in herb class. So because when you're out harbinging for herbs and plants, you need to know before you touch something, especially if you're highly allergic to it. Okay. So, but the quickest way to do it is you just walk up to the plant and you just ask it, are you harmful to me? Nope, we're okay. Now somebody else could walk up to this thing and it'll say no to that person. If you don't have to deal with that plant for any other reason, you just stay away from it. If you do have to deal with that plant, then you want to ask some other questions. You're formulating them in your head right now, I know. But that's all what you do, is just come up with a question to determine what's the level of toxicity, could you handle it for a limited time, can I handle it but not eat it, that kind of thing. And you use your bobber and you go up to that item and you ask it and it'll tell you. Okay? All right, anything else you can think of as far as
In your
That's-
garden, you can determine whether or not what you should be planting where. Because a lot of plants aren't compatible with each other, so you can go and use your bobber to say,
That's a good
is this one going to be good?
That's-
Is this one going to be bad? Because sometimes you'll plant the garden and something won't, it's not happy with it, so.
Right.
So you can use your bobber for that. Did she find any?
I don't know. Well, wait till he's coming back up. But
Did you find any?
Well, I went by some weeds, and I asked if it was harmful to me, and it was going crazy. Yes, because allergies, allergic reaction.
there you go. That's
And
all.
sometimes you'll get a rash from some of the plants.
Right.
Especially if you're gardening and you go out and you start to pull out the weeds. It's too late after you pull them out and got it over your hands, but you could use a bobber or any kind of dowsing instrument in order to find out if it's compatible with you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's compatible with you, not necessarily going to be compatible, not compatible with anybody else.
Now, just one other, I'm sure you are already thinking ahead about uses of if you're out in the yard or walking or whatever the case might be, but I think I demonstrated this once before, is how one of our dowsers, every time he went into the chiropractor's office, and the chiropractor would come out and catch him doing this to his patients out in the waiting room, and he just would shake his head at him, But he would be able to tell what was out of whack in the back before he even got into the chiropractor's office. And basically what you're doing is you're asking the energy of the back, the vertebrae, whatever the case might be, to give you a reading if there's anything out of balance. Okay, and it's just, you're using the same technique. Is there something going on here? If you don't get a reaction,
Use me.
it's fine.
Oh, you'd get quite a reaction with my back.
Yeah. The only other thing is, just stay right there. Well, for right now, you're at least even Steven as far as your polarity is concerned. So.
I just had a baby massage yesterday.
Well, there's the reason for it right there. Massage is a perfect time to get, and if you're working with anybody with your chakras and your aura and whatnot, the best time to take readings is before and after you have a nice massage session, because it can give you a lot of information on what's going on with the particular individual. It's basically just reading what the body's telling you.
Right.
Okay, and what tool that you use is, if it's the bobber, it's the bobber. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the, what? Oh, right, okay, all right, well, we'll do it again. Okay, so right now he's even with his polarity, which is a function of the body. And then what you would want to get in between is you would want to get the neutral reaction. All right, so for basic purposes only, he's at least balanced positive, negative, with a full balance in the center. If he had something wrong with him and say one side was off, that's when you then have to go into your full-blown mode of how you're going to find out what's going on. And that could take some time. whatever the case might be.
I got a question. When you did his energy, was the rod moving one way and then the other side
Yeah, it
moving
did.
the other way? Were they both going like this? Or
Yes.
it's
Yes,
circular?
going that way,
It's
yeah.
not a yes or no, it's just an indication of what's going on. in
That's
his case.
clockwise.
Circular going out.
And that's
Oh, that's
counterclockwise.
out the other
Okay.
way.
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
So you have a plus and you have a minus side, whichever side it is. Just you want to make sure that you're opposite polarity and with a neutral response in the middle. And that's just a basic indication that you're in balance. Doesn't mean you are 100% in balance, but just for that particular indication, okay? Can anybody think of anything else that you might want to use your bob for? If you don't worry about it, but just think about all the things you can do with it. And it's sometimes, a lot of people, like I say, they have a preference on what tool they use. And and my bobber is my little baby. My pendulum is too, but my bobber for other things is much easier to work with. It's a little bit more sensitive. And I'm not afraid to look weird when I'm walking around with this in my hands, you know. We've had a lot of times we've had a dowsing class at somebody's house or a business or someplace like this, and all of a sudden the neighbors will come out. What are you doing? And then we get them involved, and they'd have just as much as fun as everybody else. So, all right. Any other questions as far as the bobber is concerned? As you can see, all the bobbers will work. Doesn't matter what they're made from. You just have to learn how to use it. And you can get as fancy as you want or as simple as you want, but they'll all do the same thing for you. They'll give you the information that you need to know. And you just practice with it and learn. But I think the bobber is one of the easiest ones to work with. Okay, so now we're moving on to, let's do L rods because that's the one where you're going to use for, yeah, okay. So, now, all right, so for those of you who have L rods, now you're going to see again a variety of materials that are used. These are made, the plastic holders are pen cup, the outside covers of a pen.
Oh.
I mean, these are, this is PVC tubing that Bill cut down. These are just brazing rods. Plumbers use the brazing, welders, I guess. Welders use the brazing rods, and you can take a pair of hangers, cut the hangers down, do the same thing. You don't need to have handles on them, but I'm gonna let you guys select I have more. So, Bill, you wanna hang on to these just and let them look, and for today's purposes, don't worry about handling somebody else's set of instruments because it does take a little time for your energy to get into your
Some are
instruments.
pretty thick, some are thin.
And but what's the first thing you're going to do when you choose your dowsing instruments?
Get my yes.
What's the first thing you're going to do when you pick your dowsing instruments? No takers on those?
Oh, I'll take one.
Hey, if you don't like it, and maybe just swap around. You have your own pair, so you're all set to go. Now, it may be a little tricky today because we have a little bit of a breeze.
Yeah. I don't have anything on that.
You
Is that
don't
okay?
have any handles on them?
You
Oh,
don't need
gee.
to have,
Don't need it?
no,
Will
all
they
you need
work?
to have is, all this is an indicator.
Okay.
One of the things that you just have to decide, which one's yes and which one's no, or not yes. Sometimes it works well, other times it's not going to. And normally, because we're just standing around, so.
Wow.
Watch this. Show me yes.
We've got them any size you want.
It just.
Any size
Show
you
me
want.
no.
Again, if you're a pocket person,
Wow.
like
It's
this,
just
you want
one.
it in the pocket. You've
Yeah,
got 'em
and
with you
the
all
thing
the
is,
time.
my yes is different. My
They'll
yes
do the
is this.
same
Mine
job the
went
big
right
guys
back.
do.
Yeah.
Believe me, they will.
My
I
no
mean, you
is
can.
this.
I'll put them over here. You
Yours
can
is
pick 'em
opposite,
up
but it's
anytime
okay.
you want.
What's that?
That's mine.
Yeah, that's.
What'd you get for yes?
Or some
Reading.
wrong. you can buy
things.
online that are
And this is
copper.
because the guy who designed them
Big thing is
made
it's
them
supposed to be
very
good for
sensitive. And
looking for
again, it's something that you have to work out to learn how to use it. But what you're doing with these little devils is you're going up to, when we do the aura class, and I don't want to do an aura class now, but you have 8 layers
Like I
of
say,
aura, or there might
each
be more, I don't know.
practice,
But you have your
lady
ones
who
closest to the
uses
body is the one that's going to
uses
provide you the information.
wood.
And your body double, which is the one closest to you, is the one that I work with. Other people may work with the 2, 3, 4, because there's different meanings to each layer out there. And basically what I'm looking for is just an indication that maybe something's off in the body.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to know what it is, but that there's just something off in the body. So when I'm coming up to work with you, and it's a little windy, we may not get this too good. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for an indication on where that aura is that I want to work with. Okay. So it's giving me an indication that that part of your aura is out to here right now.
Wow.
Which is good, bad, and different. I don't know. I don't know if it is or it isn't. So then, when I'm working with you, it's a little windy. And this is very sensitive. So when I'm working with you, I'm asking it to go down your aura and give me an indication of something that might be wrong. And what this is doing is it's picking up or looking for what would be a break in your aura. We'll just go down there because I don't want to bend down. I won't get back up. So in other words, so say you have a bum shoulder, and I'm taking a reading on it. What would happen is my aura would go like this, and it would tell me that there's a break in your aura, so there's something awry. It might not be anything major. It might not be anything much, except maybe you slept on it wrong last night. But that's how I use this and use the body energy fields to give me the indications that we have to work on something.
Yeah.
Then you've got to go through the whole process of asking the questions, figuring out what it is, and then working up a solution. But this is what I use. But you can use them like L-rods if you want, but I just find that he built them for healthcare workers who work with the body energy fields, and they're very sensitive.
And you have to rework that back to your energy.
So it's just things that once you get, that's why when you find a set of tools or a device that you like working with and it works well with you, I would recommend staying with it. And then if it starts acting up on you, again, if it starts acting up on you, your instruments are not working properly, what's the first thing you do? Go back to basics. Whatever you gotta do, okay? And then you go back and you say, what is my yes answer? Okay, my name is, and you verify that now they're working properly, so then you can continue on with your work. Okay?
So, yes.
You can't use it on yourself, right?
I can. I prefer not to because I'm too close to me. And if I want the answer to be no, it's going to be no, whether it should be or not. But you can do it on yourself. If you have confidence in the fact that you're separating yourself from your situation, you can. I mean, I do it for myself for basic things. But if I was going to be for health and wellness, I would ask someone else to do it for me.
Now, do you ever bring them to the supermarket and they say, is this broccoli good for me, or is this...
We don't have to anymore
Oh,
because we are deviceless dowsers now. We can just poke with our hands. I can work with you with your body energy fields. I don't need anything. I can do work with my hands because my hands have been sensitized to what is it I'm looking for. I like to work with an instrument only because the customer who I'm working with has a little bit more confidence if they see something going on. And yeah, they can see the response, and then they feel more comfortable that I'm doing my job. Okay, and then they can see what's going on, and then we can go from there. And that's basically why I continue to use my instruments in certain
One portion
cases.
is, you're not, unless you have a medical license, you really can't tell, prescribe, or diagnose.
Yeah.
When I do a reading, I look at a person, I look through their eyes, I ask their body what's going on, but their body tells me, and I tell them what to get checked out, and it's up to them to do that.
Yeah. And again, when you're working in the health and wellness field and you're working with people, unless you've got the right set of initials after your name, you're not allowed to touch anybody. I don't care what anybody says. There's too many healthcare energy workers who just want to come up and touch people. I keep telling them, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to. So I work strictly off body. Unless I need to put my hands on you, then I have to ask your permission.
So even if you're a Reiki or a Jinshin worker where you
A
have to
Reiki
touch?
practitioner, it's not a hands touchy thing. It's
Oh.
just put your hands near them. A lot of people think it's a put your hands on stuff. It's not. It's
They
just-
work with
you-
the
yeah,
energy.
you can feel their energy. That's the whole thing.
There are energy workers out. You're reflexologists, and I hate to pick on the reflexologists, but reflexology is not recognized in the state of New York for you to be putting your hands on people. If you call up the school in New York City and you want to learn reflexology, they'll tell you they're not supposed to, but they do it anyway. They actually are defying the laws in the state of New York.
Bless you.
And until somebody gets somebody in trouble, they'll continue to do it. But technically, a reflexologist, unless they're a licensed massage therapist or an RN,
Right.
which
RN
many
is
of them
is
are,
called
then they can put their hands on you.
You're right. Therapeutic touch is only available to licensed practitioners, which are nurses.
Or usually the nurses. In fact, when I worked in the wellness center at Horton Hospital many years ago. The nurse who did the therapeutic touch and I used to work hand in hand with the client because she worked bodies on, hands on. I worked hands off, and we found that the combination of the two techniques provided the client with the best results. So we like to work with each other. So we